Alrighty, so let me go ahead and go to the next slide. I talked a little bit about resources. I always liked starting these webinars to talk about the help that you can get because it's very important to know that, we're going to go through a ton of different features, but we have a lot of resources that you can use to follow up on any of these. Before I do that, I'm seeing that there's lots of messages in the chat about the link not working. Let me go back and let's go ahead and click this and see what happens. Okay, so it should send you to this form. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share this form directly as well, and you can use the form link as well. It seems like maybe there were some copy paste issues, which is fine. Let's go ahead and get back to it. Let's talk a little bit about resources. So the first resource that I always want you to go to is our help center, support.monday.com. It also is in our platform itself in the little question mark icon. This is an amazing resource for you as you're getting to learn about the platform, not only existing features, but also brand new features. Our amazing content team works really hard to make sure when we release a feature, an article is there to help. So for all of these features that I'm going through, there is an article in support.monday.com that you can check out to learn more and really do a deep dive. We'll be going quite quickly today. So what that means is I encourage you to check out the Help Center and all of those articles afterwards. On top of that, we also have a webinars page. Some of you may have signed up from the email. Some of you may have signed up from the webinars page itself. Do go ahead and check out our amazing trainings on this page because we have basic trainings, advanced trainings, walkthroughs for a specific use case. It's all there and all facilitated by our amazing customer success and customer experience team. So do check that out if you haven't already. A third thing I wanted to quickly shout out as a resource is our product blog at monday.com/blog. We have an amazing content team that works on releasing blog posts, walking you through all the features that we're releasing. We're releasing a ton of features every single week. And in the past, it's been hard to keep track. And now we have this product blog that you can use to keep track. The fourth piece of resource is the apps pane in the sidebar. You might see a Monday apps little button in your sidebar in monday.com. If you click that, you'll see a lot of information about the apps that I talk about today. And finally, your resource is always our CX and CS team. You can always reach out to us if you have specific questions about anything that we're going through. All right, so let's get started and talk about an agenda. So what are we going to cover today? Just as a heads up, today we have about an hour. And for the first half or so, probably going to be the first 45 minutes based on how much content we have to get through. We're going to be talking about apps. So we're going to start by, I'm going to introduce Monday apps. I'm going to introduce what is Monday apps, what does this mean for us as monday.com users. After that, we're going to do a demo of 10 different apps. I've split them up into two buckets. The first group of apps that we're going to go through is about insights, visualization, getting the data in your monday.com account to be digestible in different ways. And then the second part is going to be working from home apps, because a lot of us are working remotely. And monday.com is awesome for making sure everyone's on the same page. And we built a couple of apps in order to facilitate that more easily. Finally, we're going to go through a sneak peek of 3 new apps that we haven't released yet. So the first 10 that I go through are already in your monday.com account. As I'm talking about it, you can add it to your account and play around with it. And then I'm going to show you 3 new apps that we're releasing in the next couple of weeks as well. I'm super, super excited about that too. And finally, we'll do a little bit of question and answer right at the end. As a reminder, housekeeping, there's a lot of people writing in the chat. So if you put your question in there, it will get lost. We have 1,347 people on today. Instead of putting your questions in the chat, do go ahead and use the Q&A section instead. It's a separate button in Zoom, and that'll let you send your questions in, and then Bradley and I will be able to answer them. Okay, so let's get started. 1,400 people almost. This is super, super cool. Okay, so what are Monday apps? It is a totally new chapter in monday.com as a product, and we are super, super excited to share it with you. Um, Monday apps as a whole will let you multiply the number of features and use cases that you can use monday.com for, and each app will bring a set of custom functionality to your monday.com experience. Let's break this down a little bit. So a Monday app itself will add a specific piece of functionality to your account. This can be a particular way to visualize your data, a particular way to manage your data, maybe a connection to a different platform. The possibilities are truly endless. And our apps ecosystem comes with two different sections. One is the apps themselves. So this is the features that you can add to your account, and the apps framework. The apps that I'm going to show you today are going to be views and widgets in the same way that you can add views and widgets to your monday.com account. And really an app is the same as any other feature in monday.com. We're just calling it Monday apps because they're built using the Monday apps framework. To step back a little bit, let's talk about a feature that you already have in monday.com that can be thought of as an app. It's not an app, but it could be thought of in the same way, the timeline. So the timeline is a feature that lets you display your dates in that cascading Gantt chart way. It's a really visual and easy to use tool for tracking what needs to be done and when. And the timeline exists in two different ways. So you can see a timeline on a board, so as a view, that'll show you the data on one particular board in one workflow. Or you can use it on a dashboard and use it as a widget to summarize dates from multiple different boards. In the same way, each app that I'm going to show you has a set of functionality, and some of them, actually most of them, can be used in both of these ways, as a view and as a widget. And any app that we create will be able to have this kind of functionality. In addition to the apps themselves, which I'm going to show you, these features that we're adding to the platform, we're also releasing the Monday apps framework. We could have a whole new webinar about the apps framework. We probably will, but just at a high level, the apps framework is a set of building blocks or a toolkit that developers can use to build apps and add more and more functionality to monday.com. The apps that I'm going to show you today were built by our developers, but as we open this up to external developers, anyone will be able to build a Monday app. You'll be able to build one for your own account. And in the future, we'll also have an apps marketplace so you can browse and add apps to your account super easily. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over and go into the platform itself. Let's go to my insights and visualizations board. So as I said before, our first apps that we're going to go through are about insights and visualizations. There's a lot of data in monday.com, and you want to make sure that you can see it in a way that makes sense for you, and you can get insights and process it in a way that makes sense. What I did is I took the form that you submitted and turned it into a board, and we're going to use this data that you submitted in the last 15 minutes or so to show you these apps. So let's get started. To begin with, I'm going to show you how to add an app to your account. These apps that I'm talking about are already installed in your account. They are Monday apps by monday.com. So they are by default in your account. So you don't have to do any additional work to install them, quote unquote. They do already live on your account, and all you need to do is go in to add a view. In this case, we're going to start with the pivot table, and you can add that by going into your main table section, add view, hit the apps button right here, and then, hold on, sorry, my Zoom is, okay. And then in the view section, let's go ahead and search for pivot. And immediately I see this pivot board. The pivot is super awesome, and I'm going to talk a little bit more when I add it to my board. For any of these apps that are views, you'll be able to add them in the same way. Now, the pivot board app lets you aggregate the data on your board, and it lets you group the data by all the various categories and subsets that you've got on your board. So to start, we have a form, and in the form I showed, we went through a bunch of different categorical information. We're gonna use the pivot to try and understand who's in the room and get a little bit of insights from that. So to begin with, for those of you who didn't fill out the form, let's go through the form quickly. The form would look like this, and folks filled out their name, their industry, how they're feeling, so your sentiment, your sun sign, so the astrological sign. A lot of us are working remotely, so I wanted to check if we're working remotely, yes or no. On top of that, since we're working remotely, our relationships to our work has changed a lot. So I asked if you're working more or less and how much you're working. I, for example, I'm working a lot more because I live alone, and I'm just I wake up and I start work and finish when I go to bed. I also added what's your favorite place to visit, which goes into a location column, and I'll show you why that's important later. And another question just about sentiments, but in a free-form text way. So I've got a lot of different kinds of data that have come into this board, and we're going to use the pivot and all of the other insights and visualizations apps to make sense of it all. So let's get started. The pivot board, this is kind of one of the more in-depth demos that I'm going to do today. Because it's very cool, and if you're not familiar with pivots in Excel, it needs a little bit of explanation. So to begin with, the view itself on the top right has all of the things that you can group your data by. In this case, it's all of your columns, as well as some information about when an item was created. And what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to just understand how many of us are working remotely. So to do that, I'm going to grab this working remote piece and move it to the row grouping. And this immediately creates a line item for yes and a line item for no. So I can see in total, we've got 335 people who are working remotely right now, and 27 people who are not, for a total of 364. We can see this is even updating in real time because people are filling out the form as we speak. This is super cool. Now, this already tells me a lot about who's in the room. A lot of us are working at home, tuning in from our home offices, which is very cool to see. But I want something a little bit more than just a count. I want to understand, remember how we were talking about additional hours and who is working more or less? I want to know if folks who are working remotely are actually working more or not. So to do that, I'm going to click on this top left and hit average. And I want to average out the additional hours that everyone is working. And immediately I see that based on the last couple of months and kind of this global crisis that we're going through, everyone is working more, on average at least. And folks who aren't working remotely are working just a little bit less than 4 hours more every week. And folks who are working remotely are working a little bit more than 4 hours, about almost 5 hours a week extra. That's like an hour a day extra because you're working remotely. This makes sense for me as well, given my experience working remotely. Now we've got this information already just with 2 clicks. I've gotten a lot more insight out of what's on my board than just the table view itself. But the amazing thing about the pivot is you can group by anything. So I'm gonna take this a step further and be a little bit controversial. And we're gonna check by sun sign, by astrological sign, who's working more and who's working less. So right here, I moved the sun sign into the row grouping, and then now I see that there's a new column for sun sign, and each of these buckets working remotely, yes or no, is then broken down by the sun sign. And I've got no and yeses right here. What I want to do is filter out only the folks who are working remotely, and I want to see which sun signs are working most and which sun signs are working least. So to do that, I'm going to use the filter in the top right. And I'm going to filter this by working remotely. Yes, so we're only going to be seeing folks who are working remotely. And okay, so we've got a lot of variance right here. I'm going to sort this actually by from top to bottom. And it turns out that almost everybody's working more, right? So these are positive. Aries, y'all are working the most extra. Virgo is close behind them. I'm a Virgo, it makes sense. But I think what's the most interesting here is folks who don't care about sun signs are actually working a lot less than everybody else. I wonder what that says. Not to call you out, but this is just a simple example of how you can use the pivot to multiply the number of insights you're getting from your board. If I wanted to then look at sentiment and flip this around, I could do that. I could look at it by industry. There's tons of stuff I can do on this board. I could probably spend an entire webinar doing this, just going through the pivot, but I'm not going to do that. We have a ton more to talk about. So let's move on to the next app. The next app that I'm going to show you is the word cloud app. This app is pretty straightforward. It takes the words on your board and turns them into a cloud. So you can see visually the data on your board, and you can see what words get used more and less. So in this case, it starts by taking the item name. And so this is everybody's name. And I can see that we have a lot of Brian's in the house today. That's quite interesting, honestly. A lot of Carlos's as well, quite a few Jennifers and so on. But honestly, your names are all wonderful, but let's make this a little bit more interesting. Let's, instead of choosing column, let's choose industry. And let's see where everyone's working from. Now, when I click on settings and change the industry, it'll then reset the word cloud. And then when I kind of make it bigger, I get to see all of the industries that folks are working on. I see that my filter is still on, so let me go ahead and clear that filter. And you can see that that resets again. And I see a lot of people in marketing and education, some in construction, some in consulting and manufacturing, a few in specialty. Some of the smaller ones are sales and telecommunication. But I can see all of this data in a very, very visual way. Bigger word means higher frequency. Another question that I asked, and this is something that I'm interested in learning about, is your actual sentiment. Kind of by design, the first sentiment question was only positive things, but let's learn a little bit about how folks are actually feeling today. And I get a very large tired. 99 of us are tired, which makes sense. Overwhelmed, exhausted, excited. We've got some positive stuff and some negative stuff, which makes sense to me, honestly. This global crisis has shifted things around. And for some of us, we've been at home for months already, and it's okay to be tired. We're all in this together, and we got to get through it. That's my little word cloud pep talk of the day. So that's the word cloud. You can add it to your view, to your board as a view, and it also exists as a widget. So if you have a dashboard, you can add the app there as well. Another really, really cool app that I like is the Board to Globe app. This lets you look at the locations on your board in a global view. So you might be familiar with our map view, which shows you the data as a map. But if I want to see everyone around the world, the Board to Globe is perfect for that. And we have so many people on today's webinar that I would love to see everyone's favorite location. So the Board to Globe app will open up a globe. So on the right side, I can see the Earth. This is where we all are, or probably most of us. I don't know if any of us are in outer space. And then on the left side, I see a card view of each item, of each person's favorite place. So in here, I can see a lot of Colosseums and Machu Picchu. I think these were the generic ones that are suggested, but let's go ahead and click into some of these other ones. So this is Pam, and her favorite place is Scotland. Thanks so much everyone for sharing, by the way. And I'm just kind of going through and looking at everyone's responses. Got Canada right here. I'm actually going to move the globe over to where I'm from and see if anyone posted there. I'm from Singapore. That's right here. No one's favorite place is Singapore. That's totally okay. But I see someone in Thailand, Chiang Mai. This is awesome. Oh, I see one. This is the Taj Mahal in India. That's pretty cool. I've got one in Japan right here. Royston loves Japan. It's really, really cool to see how spread out the favorite places of everyone on this call is. We've got a lot of folks in who said Europe, some folks who said places in North Africa and the Middle East, and a lot in North America as well. So this is really, really cool to see. This is a very simple example, but you can start using the board to globe for tons of different things, especially when it comes to locations. If you're a real estate company and you want to see where your properties are, you can do that. If you're using this for marketing and you want to track your campaigns and where each of your campaigns are around the world, you can do that as well. And honestly, more than anything, I think this is a really impressive thing to show to clients and to investors and to higher ups when you want to show the global reach of your operations and what you're working on. All right, the last app, since it is almost 11:30, I want to just quickly show this to you as I'm not going to walk you through it, but I'm just going to show it to you as a view. It is called the Performance Insights board, the Performance Insights app. This will let you understand how well you do in your when you're building out your workflow. So if you have a particular project where you've got different phases and you want to understand, okay, how long are items in each phase, you can use the Performance Insights for that. I particularly like it for workflows that involve a review stage. If I have different people having to check on an item before it can get done, let's say we use this internally for bug tracking. Bug tracking has to go through a lot of different stages of triage, and we use the Performance Insights to make sure that none of these particular stages are where things are getting stuck. And the Performance Insights will let you do that. It is a view, and you can just hit add view and start seeing that. It takes live data from the activity log. So in this case, it probably won't show anything, or it'll show that our current week is really, really high. But I wanted to quickly show this to you as well. All right, now we're gonna shift gears a little bit after I've shown you all of these amazing insights and visualization apps that we've built out. Again, these are all already in your monday.com account, so you can go in and start playing with them already, even before this webinar is over. I would like you to stay and keep watching, but if you wanted to, you could do that. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about apps that we can use to help with working from home. So many of us are working remotely, about 400 people, and let's use some apps to make that a little bit easier. So to do that, I'm going to switch over to a different board. This is a board that I prepared earlier, and it's really just a generic workflow that I'm going to use to show you the power of these apps. It's a project plan board. Each line item is something that my team has to do. And then I've got an owner column for assignees. I've got some files. I've got some status columns for understanding the phases. I've got a timeline and a progress. This is actually built out of a template, so it's nothing too fancy, but it gives us a solid foundation for me to show you some of these amazing apps. All right, so to begin with, I'm going to show you the collaborative whiteboard. Now, the collaborative whiteboard is amazing for creating mockups and collaborating in a more free-form way in real time. I'm going to click on this and show you what this looks like. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a whiteboard. It's a blank canvas that you can use to draw and write whatever. And if someone else is looking at this whiteboard at the same time, as if we were sitting next to each other on a whiteboard, they would see this as well. I've got Bradley, who is also currently on this whiteboard, and I'm going to do a little bit of collaboration with him. I see that Bradley's already writing. This is amazing to see. Bradley says hi. I'm going to add some text in here. So if I click on this little T, I can add some freeform text. Hey, Bradley, how's it going? And then Bradley, if you could answer in text, that would be amazing. Oh, that's him. And I can edit his text as well, and we can start collaborating. While Bradley's doing this, Bradley's is pretty good. That's good to hear, Bradley. This is not only for creating mockups. You can use this in all sorts of different ways. I saw that a lot of us are in education. I think this could be a really, really cool way to start collaborating in real time, both with your colleagues as well as potentially with students. I'm sure there's definitely a use case for that here as well. One thing I will mention for the collaborative whiteboard is our product team used the Whiteboard app in order to design a different app, to design the performance tracking app that I showed you earlier today. So we're already using this in real time. You can too. I think this collaborative whiteboard is super awesome. And this particular app exists as a view, which I'm showing you right now, but you can also put it on a dashboard if you wanted to. Another app that I want to show you started off as an app, but we decided we love it so much that we put it in our platform instead, and it is image annotations. So this is a really, really cool feature to take an image that is usually static and turn it into a conversation. If I open up any image in my account, so a files column, in an update section, something like that, I get this preview, and I can use the image annotations to start adding comments here. So if, let's say that this particular image, I want to add a little comment saying that I want to make this this plus minus zoom in, zoom out button a little bit larger. I can click on add comment. I can click on where I want to do it, and I want to say, hey, this is too small. And then when I hit comment, anyone who can see that file will see a little tag over here, and when they click it, they'll see my comment. So you can start using this to annotate your documents and really turn those static files into review processes, conversations, without having to build out an entire board to track all of that. All right, so that's image annotations. The next app I want to show you is online docs. This is a very cool feature because it's built for working remotely. Remote life means getting more organized. For me, one of the biggest things that I noticed when transitioning into working from home is that I need to be more organized. I can't tap Bradley on the shoulder. We work in the same office. I can't tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, I can't find X document. I need to make sure that all of that is organized in one place. And the online docs will let you do that. It exists as a view and as a widget. In this case, I'm just going to show you the view. I've already added it to my account, to my board. I'm going to click this and show you what it looks like. This will let you embed documents from other places directly in monday.com. For me, I like using this for Google Drive documents, but you can use this for anything. As you can see right here, I've taken the intro slides that you saw earlier today, and I've embedded it directly in monday.com. What this means is I can edit them without changing context, without going from my board to Google Drive and coming back. I am someone I'm a little bit of a tab fiend, and will often have 20, 30, 40 tabs, have to open up multiple windows just so I can have all of these tabs in one place. And with online docs, I don't have to do that. I can have everything in one place without needing to switch from tab to tab. In addition to this particular document, I have another document for my webinar outline. And when I click on the plus, I can add other files. Really, any online service that lets you embed their documents on another website. So Office 365 allows you to do this. Google Drive allows you to do this. And a lot of different applications, especially collaboration applications, they'll let you do this. And all you need to do is grab that embed link, paste it in here, type in your name, and when you hit embed, it'll show up in this list. So you can have as many files as you want on here, and anyone who can look at this board will be able to see that as like a central repository. But I appreciate everyone who's joined, and thank you for making this webinar so safe. So not so safe, sorry. So so fun. I loved seeing all of your responses, and it's been really cool.